Hey everybody, it's Libby with WootRecruit, your go-to recruiter for the high turnover industry, such as cleaning, landscaping, lawn care, construction, roofing, you name it. If you're a service-based industry, this is the YouTube channel for you. WootRecruit is the first ever recruitment program tailored exclusively for the service-based industry, turning your recruitment into a growth engine. Stay tuned and to transform your recruiting strategies. Today, we have a great guest. Summer, tell us just a little bit about yourself, and we're going to dive into some recruiting and culture questions.
Okay, wonderful. My name is Summer Abram. I am CEO, co-owner of Maids and More, and been doing that for going on 14 years here in July. And we also have a software that we built while doing that. And so that's kind of a startup I had going.
Awesome. So we want to get into, me and Summer just recorded a podcast. If you guys follow us on Fearlessness, that was great. But she had just said that culture is her jam when it comes to hiring and retaining staff, because culture attracts them and keeps them. Right? So what are some unique things or even perspective you guys have on what culture is? Because I feel like people struggle with culture because you can't touch it. It's like software, right? You can't touch it. It's just there. You know, like how do you even put a dollar value? How do you measure it? How do you know it even exists? Because we all have culture, whether we want to or not. But like, what are some takes on you, like your unique approach to the way you guys think about culture?
You know, I've worked in a lot of places, right? I've worked in real estate companies, title companies, and when Holly hired me, when I came on with Holly 2 years after Maids and More started, as we started adding to our team, we would start to have some like dramatic things going on, right? Not with all of them, but with a couple. And we would coach and we would try to keep those, we'd try to make it work, right? So it got to a point, I think it was we were in the middle of a planning session, and Holly and I talked before, and typically, if we're going to put something out there like that, I'll be the one that says it, just due to because I want everybody on the team being a team environment, but also understand that we have home lives as well. So a family environment, not a toxic family environment, right? Supportive, wants to do the work, right? But then we know they have issues and things at home, and I mean, there's the door, as if in you're not going to ruin what these other team members have and the culture that we have. So first, we had to stop that culture, right?
Stop tolerating it.
Yes, and we had to realize, what are we doing here, right? What kind of people do we want working for us? We want team players. It's all full circle, right? So management does those sales, management pushes out to the maids clean it, and then sales. It's like this cycle. If one person or one team is not doing their job, it not only affects their team, it affects, our 120 maids, their families, our salespeople and their families, and who depends on them. You're not here. And I mean that not in a mean way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we say we can promote them to another company.
Yeah. Let me give you I'm gonna send you a reference, and you don't have to stay 2 weeks. Here's your 2 weeks pay, and so we want to treat people like that. We want to show those, because there's been ones that I'm kind of worried about. But I tell you what, after a few conflict resolutions and some coaching, we don't be too quick to judge, because, like me, I mean, my background, when I came in, no filter. I'm a high D, high I. I tell it like it is. No worries about anybody's, feelings. And Holly, has coached me. Now I feel like I'm really good at it, but sometimes I gotta watch it. But yeah, so circling back to what you had asked me, did I answer it or did I get off track there?
No, it's like, it's not tolerating people who don't fit. It's cutting them loose and only keeping those that fit into the culture, because it is the biggest way to kill morale. It's the biggest way to lose our good people, because what's happening is when we tolerate it, it's the 80-20 rule. Everything ends up to be the 80-20 rule. We're spending like 80% of our time with the 20 bottom percent of our staff. And then that's why we lose the rock stars. Mm-hmm. Because they're taking up all this time. 80% of our time's going over here. to the 20% we shouldn't be keeping.
Yeah,
Because,
even times those ones are high performers. And, I think that you can coach. If anybody has an open heart and open mind and willingness to learn, you can coach them. They can be, I just took one of my maids, went to front receptionist, and then I just moved her to sales. And she's like, Summer, I can't do this. I've never sold anything. I'm like, you're a go-getter and you can do this. And she is just on a roll. And I knew it just by her personality. But so you have to kind of discern who's coachable, who's not. And they'll tell you by their actions, right? By what they do and the daily. And then, so mentoring and coaching is.
Absolutely. So mentoring and coaching, but not tolerating someone that's not a culture fit, someone doesn't possess your core values. And I harp on so many people about core values, and I feel like they dismiss them because we sweep them under the rug. We don't think they're serious. But every book, everything you pick up, anytime you want to fix your recruiting or your business or your hiring or your ops, everything goes back to core values.
Yes.
Like as the foundation. And I feel that when we first start out, we kind of just throw some stuff on a piece of paper. Maybe we copy other people's core values because they sound cool, but they're not really ours. But they're not really like ours. I did that. I was one of those that I just copied them from somewhere because they look cool. And until I went through like a really real planning session, like a real quarterly planning session, and we sat down and we said, no, like, we have the wrong people on our team, and this is why. And we don't know how to decipher between them, is we didn't have real core values set to hire and fire and promote off of.
Yes.
Yeah. So my next question is, I have like 100 different ways to go with this topic because you have multiple locations.
Yes.
And you said you lived in the country.
Yes.
That was on the other podcast, but she lived. So as a CEO and a company with like 120 field staff, so you're not going into the office every day, right?
No, I go try to get there as much as possible, but definitely every quarter. And some years I get there every month. Definitely at the end of the year. And then we also have big company retreats that we go on for 3 or 4 days to Vegas, to Louisiana, we're going to Lake Tahoe this year. We're taking our management staff. But I do work virtually. So, but I jump on Slack, huddles, Zooms, to do some one-on-one.
So that was going to be my question, is how do you retain culture as CEO when you have multiple locations? Because you can't, even if you lived in the one city, if you have two, you can't be at the same place at one time.
I'm actually not in either. So
I want to learn how do you maintain culture if you're running essentially two remote locations, because you're running them remotely.
Okay. So I would say having this culture is a mindset for your leaders, right? And it's part of the thing that I worry about with when I'm stepping away a little bit more than normal. But everybody that is here knows how I feel about it. And Holly, we both have our kind of like ways that we roll it out. It'll sound a little different coming from her. She's, and then that sounds for me. I'm all heart, love, support. She's all, the parent accountability, the conflict resolution type person. So we balance each other out. I'm like, hold up. She's a single mom. She's got 6 kids at home. Let's cut her a break. Right. But you can't, but your team has to agree to it, or your manager you can't start making management decisions, right? So that's the part of coaching. So you should never hear that they're struggling, because our managers know that we're going to back them on whatever they need to do to support them, as long as it doesn't hurt the company. We have to make it to where every other person doesn't feel like they're unfair. So, you do have to keep a line. There's a line there. So I would say, if you're having an issue with culture, it might be you. So maybe if there's an old culture issue, look at you first, right? Would you work for you? Would you love to come to work? So that's what I kind of, now would I work for me sometimes, depending on my mental stress and status? That's why I'm in the room by myself, probably. But so I think that thing is just turn it around on yourself. Would you work for you? Would you like to be micromanaged? Would you like to I've seen this too in workplaces, and it's happened, and we stopped it. We promised ourselves, We do not discuss employees with the other employees unless
Oh,
it's a
yes.
manager over that gossip thing and, having favorites and that kind of stuff. No fly,
I've kicked a salesperson out of my level 10 meeting because she was talking about one of the cleaning technicians.
Yeah, no, you got to
During a weekly, I'm like, you can get out. Like, there's the door. We don't talk like that about other people.
Exactly. Because you're nothing, Miss Salesperson, without that person out there doing that work. Who are you to be talking?
You would have nothing to sell, honey.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any like habits or rituals you do to kind of help build that culture? Or what are your tools? So you use Slack, you said?
Yes, we have Slack. Wow. First, it's so funny that I'm always looking for technology solutions, but you know how used to you have your phone, you have all these group messages. So you have the manager text, and then you have the group, just text. We switched over to Slack. So Slack is great. Lots of communication. I can jump on a huddle with any of my team members. What was the question again? Sorry.
Any daily rituals or monthly rituals you do to keep culture up so that they see your face, they hear from you?
Yeah, I'll like video record, hey, what we got going on this month. I'll check in. I try to check in with them monthly, but I definitely check in with each employee in the office staff, at least every quarter. And then we have quarterly planning sessions where I'm actually in the office. And then, I'm always available by text or phone. So if they run into a situation, they know they can call. But we've kind of worked our way out of that because they've know how to handle it.
They got it.
Yeah. And then our trips, customer retention, we take them we'll just take them and pamper them for a day out to eat, get nails done, toes done. I go to team building things like, escape rooms and, just to break the monotony and build that team. And then the most important one is when we all come together in the summer, which is our yearly trip. And it's, because we have 2 offices. So it's usually, you clump people together, right? So this office will stay with this office. So we combine everybody together, and then everybody gets to know the other people in the office, even though they're 3 hours away. And that has been, we implemented that. First trip was me, Holly, and Roxy. So, and then we've just, as we added management staff, we just kept going. We got to a van, and now we're in planes because we can't all fit in one vehicle. So it's kind of crazy.
That's great.
But yeah.
Do you find that each office has its own culture, or do you think it's pretty similar?
I would say, well, also, I think culture, I would say yes. Whoever's over the office that deals with the day-to-day, people in the office and the maids, that's got to be the person that believes in your core values. And she has to have a heart of gold. She has to care about her employees and the company. And if you give her that confidence and back her up, or him, then you don't have to be worried about things falling apart, right? So we have Roxy OG. She was hired right after I was. She actually was cleaning before I got there. And then we have Gloria. She started as a cleaner and was moved up to management. I don't know how many years ago, but very similar. And so really proud of that.
Awesome. So circle back from recruiting from culture to recruiting. What is maybe the question is one change, but what are a couple or one change that you've made or the company has made in your recruiting process that has really changed the game, that has significantly improved your results?
I would say employee referrals. Yeah, I would say employee referrals. They tend, although there's not enough, right? We offer some referral, but they tend to stick longer. And then people won't refer somebody that's maybe like, kind of a bad apple because they don't want it to look bad on them. So that right there has been key. Now we've had to do a lot of, a lot of interviews and no shows. And so that has been a struggle. And I'm super excited about WootRecruit, cutting all that out. I know, kind of Zoom meetings for one, because that really sees if people are serious or not. And then we've kind of placed our offices in trafficked areas. So, like by bakeries and grocery stores and that kind of thing where people are walking by. And then we have big now hiring on the windows. And then we've done some posting on Facebook, never really run ads. I always get kickback on this because like we would join a Facebook group, right, of a specific type of, and then, make a post and Gringo get kicked out. And then, they're just like, no, you. So depending on what demographic you're hiring, I think that's all going to be different for each and every. And I think you've already done WootRecruit has already got lots of research on that, which I am looking forward to getting to see.
Yeah, I get a ton of traffic with Facebook ads. So I do paid Facebook ads. But my demographic, it has to be specific to your demographic. Are your users on Facebook? It's going to wherever they're at, meeting them where they're at, kind of get in front of them that way.
Right.
But my last question is, before we wrap up, what's the one thing you wish you would have known that you could give to anybody new or anybody just starting out that you knew about recruiting before you got started?
Hire 5, keep 1. You'll get 1. For every 5 you hire, your 1's going to stick. So you hire 5, next week, hire 5 more. Next week, hire 5 more. End of the month, you'll have 4 employees and you went through 25 people.
That is so true. And we tell so many people that, whether it's WootRecruit or just someone I'm talking to in conversation, they'll like, oh, I got a great hire. Turn off the ads, turn everything off.
Yeah.
They onboard on Monday and today's like Tuesday and, onboarding's still a week away. And then all of a sudden here comes Monday and they didn't show up. The one person they put all their eggs in that basket didn't show up.
Been there, done that. I had one. Do we have time? I have a story for you. Okay, so I had this happen to me. We actually had bootstrapped a division here in the Killeen Temple area, so like by Fort Hood. So I had an office in Belton that I bootstrapped out of my garage here in Gatesville. We moved over there to Belton, and I was doing the hiring, right? And I had like 3 or 4 people lined up. Nobody showed. Tried again the next day, and I said, you know what? We're going to do mass hiring. So I set up with said hiring company, and I set up like 45 interviews for a Monday and like 35 for Tuesday. And I hired 2 people, and I think 10 showed up out of almost 70. So if that tells you anything right there, definitely a hiring tool. Also, okay, so I will go back to retention and the work culture. So you need some help getting them hired, but then it's your job as an owner, manager to keep them. And I like working in teams better for this reason. You retain your cleaners, and it's very expensive to keep hiring. So in singles, they get kind of out there on their own. They kind of get burnout, or, a team can go in and work as a team. They make about, 5 or 6% less, but you have to hire half as much, right? Because, so I kind of feel that way about teams, that we're able to retain better because they're working as a team, since they're not in the office like our office staff.
Yeah, absolutely. It can get a little lonely out there. And so we saw this with WootRecruit. We could bring all the applicants to your door. You could give them offers. But if you were not paying attention to the culture, they would be going right out the back door. Mm-hmm. And it's tremendously expensive. And so WootRecruit, I started we do a ton of teaching on culture and retention and how to onboard, because you spend all this money and then you onboard them. And after like 3 or 4 days, you even forgot that they existed because you're just bogged down by the day to day. And it's just, so that is definitely a struggle. Well,
yes,
it's time to wrap up. We've been on for 20 minutes. Holly, I want to thank you, not Holly, Summer. I want to thank you so much
thanks for having me, Libby. I enjoyed it.
For joining me. I'm going to be spending next weekend with Summer in Austin for the ISSA residential event. But guys, that's a wrap. So I'm Libby with WootRecruit, your go-to recruiter for the high turnover industry.